Hey everyone, this is Timothy Coleman back for another video, and now today I'm just very glad that you came to stop by here for a little bit, and I'm going to kind of go over something that I don't really see that's talked about enough in kind of the fitness world, and that's what's called a PSMF diet, which is called a protein sparing modified fast. That's what it stands for. Now, this diet is on the extreme side. So like if you're prone to kind of like disordered eating, or you've had issues with disordered eating in the past, this is kind of something I would stay away from because it's a very extreme thing. It could, easily turn into something very bad. But basically the idea is it's like a cut, but pushed all the way to the max. Basically, if you don't know, a cut is where you try to retain as much muscle as you can while losing body fat, and you do this by upping your protein intake pretty high and lowering calories enough to where you are burning fat. This takes that and it pushes it to its limits, the extreme. Basically, the idea is you try to make your carbohydrates as close to 0 grams a day as you can. I'm not talking keto, like, yeah, stay under 30 grams or whatever. No, I'm talking like literally stay as close to 0 as you can, preferably at 0 if you can. And the other idea is eat 0 fat as well. It's a little harder to find protein sources that have literally 0 fat in them, so just keep it close to 0, but you might have a little bit of fat here and there. The first thing I would want to kind of go over for this is that you need a high protein intake, so probably 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight if you're trying to retain as much muscle as you can. That's probably the low end of what you can do. And basically you do this by eating like chicken breast, egg whites, whitefish, and a lot of protein powders are good for this. So there's some protein powders out there that are literally 0 fat, 0 carbs, straight protein. I can show you real quick. So I got this thing hanging off, but this is something called IsoPure. The reason why I like this so much is that it has a little bit of a higher price, but it is 0 grams of fat. It is 0 grams of carbohydrates and sugars and whatever, 25 grams of protein. It is just 100 calories, 25 grams of protein. If you don't know, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories. That's 25 times 4, that's 100 calories. So it is just straight protein that you're getting, and a bit of sodium and some other stuff too. And it doesn't taste bad, especially for being like literally just protein. And you could pretty much mix that with like water. I would mix it with like really cold water because I don't know, I think it just makes it taste the best. But to be honest, I would almost kind of stay away from these because it's liquid calories, and some people might want to be able to eat as much as they can while on an extreme diet. Maybe eat like chicken breast or something, or like egg whites or something, and try to find like a good seasoning for you or something. But it's not going to be easy, and you're not going to have really any variety at all. It's going to be a difficult meal to follow. Be ready to have a very strict meal to follow, but if you want like extreme kind of quicker results and try to retain your muscle in the process, then that is kind of what you need to start with. Now, when it comes to your actual caloric intake, it can vary from person to person, but the idea is you're probably going to be around 500 to 800 calories per day. So like, for example, if I was just using this straight up, I would get, about 500 or 600 calories in, and I'd get 125 to 150 grams of protein, because that's, right around where my body weight is. And so that would be good enough for me. So that's something I could do. I could do like 5 or 6 scoops of this, spread it throughout the day. It can kind of sustain your energy. The protein helps you feel a little bit full, sort of. Now, another thing you want to kind of look at is micronutrient supplements, or giving yourself a little bit of carbohydrates in order to eat some like vegetables that have fiber in them and stuff. So due to like the very small food variety that you would have on this diet, and the extremely low calories, you might need to get a multivitamin, which includes like magnesium, light salt, as I've mentioned in my 7-day water fast, where you could put this in water and it has a bunch of potassium in it and a bit of sodium. You could use flavor packets for water that have a bunch of sodium in it, because you're also going to need sodium or electrolytes, whatever you want to call it. And that one is especially important, the sodium. And Any like calcium supplement you could find could probably help you out too, and like a multivitamin or something. Now the refeed. I've seen kind of some varying evidence for what you should do during this, but basically what I've seen suggested is to slowly bring your carb intake back up once you're done with the diet. So let's say you just do this for like 2 weeks. You want to lose like a lot of fat. You have a good bit of muscle hidden underneath, which you probably will lose some muscle doing this, probably more than you would on a very slow cut. Basically, you want to kind of, after you're done, you want to kind of slowly reintroduce more food variety to your diet. So maybe you'll eat like a little bit of carbs once you're done, and you'll slowly kind of ramp it up over several days. Now, some people say, well, you should ramp it up slowly over a week. Some people say you should do it over several weeks. Some people even suggest that you kind of just like go all in and start right at your maintenance, which I don't suggest because they can, cause some issues with your digestion, and you may not be able to handle all of that food at once. So I wouldn't do that personally. Personally, what I would do is kind of, day by day, slowly increase your intake, including carbs and like calories and stuff, and just like up it by a few hundred every day or something like that, and up your carbs by, 20 grams, 30 grams a day or something like that, and you should be fine, I would think. Now, the last part is totally optional. It's medical supervision. You might want to, get like a professional's opinion, or you might want to have a professional helping you while you do it. Technically optional, but it could really help you out, especially if you don't really know what you're doing too well, or if you haven't done a lot of research. Another thing is whether or not you kind of qualify for this diet. This diet was originally formed, a couple decades ago, and it was to help very obese individuals kind of lose a bunch of weight right at once and try to retain their lean mass, their muscle mass, stuff like that. And it was actually shown that it was pretty effective. It's mostly to help obese individuals, or if you're just you want to cut on your diet and you want to like really speed it up, and you have the willpower and the motivation to kind of take a harder route, then that's another way to do it. Will not retain as much muscle, I feel, and it will probably be pretty difficult. So you have to keep in mind for that. Duration. This is like strictly short term. If you're like far like overweight individual, you can probably push it to a higher extent. I honestly wouldn't want someone doing it more than 6 weeks, just because it's very taxing and probably very hard to do. But like if you're at a much lower weight, I would do like a week or maybe 2 weeks, just depending on where you are on that spectrum. Even then you might be kind of pushing it, just depending on how lean you are. And of course, if you're very prone to like disordered eating, you want to just stay away from it altogether. It's not going to be good for you. The last thing I want to mention is training. It's always said on a cut, you want to be training very hard and training as best as you can to kind of retain as much muscle mass as you can and stimulate your muscles to make them want to stay. Maybe not necessarily growing, but at least, retaining and like staying how they are. This on this kind of extreme diet would be a lot harder because you don't have a lot of energy and you might get very lightheaded and stuff. So it's suggested that you hit your workouts and you still do your workouts, but you go lighter. You don't lift as hard. You don't lift for as long, and maybe either cut down the volume, like a few less sets, and definitely cut down the weight. Don't lift as much for just however long you're doing the diet, because you're not going to have the energy, and it might burn you out really badly, and you might even like pass out or something like that. So you have to be very careful. That's pretty much going to do it for this video, everyone. Hopefully you kind of learned something new about the diet. I'm no health expert. I've just done some research and I've looked at it, and I kind of wanted to add a little more to the discussion about this diet because I haven't really seen enough people talk about it. I just wanted to kind of add my own take on it, and I think it can be effective, but I think you have to be very careful about it, and probably you probably have to weigh a little bit more for it to make sense. But some people use it as a way to start their cutoff strong. It helps them stay very motivated if they lose a ton of weight at the start, and then they bring it to a regular deficit after that. And some people do it around the ends of their diet when they're trying to get like super shredded, really low body fat and whatnot. Sometimes they'll introduce this extreme method to kind of just get rid of the little last bit of fat that's kind of holding on to them. And so there's a lot of different uses and methods for it. There's a lot you can do with it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate the viewership. Thank you guys so much.